The richest man in the world has exactly the same 24 hours in his day as the poorest. Interesting, isn't it? Bill Gates doesn't get 25 hours. Warren Buffett doesn't get 30. And you and I don't get 20. We all get 24. That's it. So what makes the difference? You see, success leaves clues. And if you follow the schedule, the habits, the daily rituals of successful people, you'll find fascinating patterns in how they use their 24 hours. I'm not here to give you a magical formula. I'm here to share with you some fundamental truths about time truths that have transformed ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. Let me start with something simple but powerful. Successful people understand the value of time. They don't just understand it intellectually, they feel it emotionally. They know that time is the most precious commodity. You can always make more money, but you can never make more time. When an hour is gone, it's gone forever. Successful people feel this truth in their bones. I remember talking to a young man once. He said, "Mr. Rohn, I just don't have enough time." And I said to him, "You have all the time there is." That hit him hard, because it's true. You have all the time there is minus 24 hours a day, just like everyone else. The question isn't how much time you have, it's how you're using it. Now, let's talk about mornings. Successful people own their mornings. They don't stumble out of bed when they absolutely have to. They rise early with purpose. They take control of those early hours when the world is still quiet, when the phone isn't ringing, when emails aren't flooding in. They use this time to set the tone for their day. I've found that the most successful people I've met over my decades in business are early risers. Some at 5 a.m., some at 4 a.m., some even earlier. Not because they don't enjoy sleep, they do, but because they enjoy success more. They understand the power of those quiet morning hours. What do they do during this time? They invest in themselves. They read, they write, they plan, they exercise, they meditate, they pray. They work on their minds, their bodies, their spirits, their goals. This isn't just about being productive. It's about personal development. It's about becoming more than you are right now. Let me ask you something. What did you do this morning? Did you jump out of bed and rush into your day? Or did you take time to feed your mind with something meaningful? Did you exercise your body? Did you review your goals? Did you plan your day? These are the rituals that separate the extraordinary from the ordinary. You know, I often say that success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And the unsuccessful person is simply someone who is burdened by a few errors in judgment repeated every day. It's the compound effect of daily habits that leads either to success or failure. Now, let's talk about planning. Successful people don't just let their days unfold randomly. They plan. They decide in advance what's worth their time and what isn't. They have clear priorities. I learned a powerful concept years ago. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. Not much at all. So take control of your hours, your days, your weeks, your life. Successful people plan their days the night before. They know what they're going to do when they wake up. They have their most important tasks identified. They don't wake up and then figure out what to do. They wake up and execute their plan. Here's something fascinating about how successful people manage their time. They work in focus blocks. They don't constantly switch between tasks, checking email, then making a call, then working a bit on a project, then checking social media. No, they understand the power of deep work. They set aside blocks of time, maybe 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours during which they focus intensely on one important task without interruption. This is harder than it sounds in our distraction-filled world. But successful people create environments that allow for this kind of focus. They turn off notifications. They close their office doors. They communicate to others that they're unavailable during certain hours. They protect their time fiercely. Let me tell you about the power of saying no. This is one of the most important skills for managing your 24 hours. Average people say yes to too many things. They say yes to every request, every invitation, every distraction. Successful people say no to almost everything except what aligns with their core values and goals. Warren Buffett once said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." Think about that. The most successful investor of our time attributes much of his success to what he says no to, not what he says yes to. You have to be willing to say no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. You have to be willing to say no to other people's priorities so you can say yes to your own. This isn't about being selfish, it's about being intentional. I remember a conversation I had with a successful CEO. He told me that every time he's faced with a decision about how to spend his time, he asks himself one question. Is this the highest and best use of my time right now? That's it. That's his filter. And most things don't pass that test. Now, let's talk about the myth of multitasking. Many people think they're being efficient by doing multiple things at once. The research is clear they're not. What we call multitasking is really just rapidly switching between tasks. And each switch comes with a cognitive cost. Your brain has to readjust each time, and you lose momentum, focus, and efficiency. Successful people don't multitask. They single task. They give their full attention to whatever they're doing at the moment, whether it's working on a business plan, having a conversation with a colleague, or spending time with their family. They are fully present. Speaking of family, let's address a critical point. Using your time effectively isn't just about work. It's about life. Successful people understand that true success includes meaningful relationships, good health, personal growth, and contribution, not just professional achievements or financial gain. So they make time for what matters most. They schedule date nights with their spouses. They block off time for their children's events. They make time for friends, for community, for causes they believe in. They make time for rest, for recreation, for rejuvenation. This isn't time wasted. It's time invested in the fullness of life. You see, the goal isn't to cram as much productivity as possible into every minute. The goal is to use your 24 hours in a way that creates the life you want, a life of meaning, purpose, joy, and yes, success as you define it. Let's talk about a mistake I see people make all the time. They confuse activity with accomplishment. They're busy, busy, busy all day long, but they're not making progress on what really matters. Successful people focus on results, not just activities. This means they're constantly asking themselves, is what I'm doing right now moving me toward my goals? If the answer is no, they stop and redirect their attention to what will make a difference. You know, in my years of study and success, I've noticed that successful people are incredibly protective of their energy. They recognize that time isn't the only limited resource, energy is too. So they manage their energy as carefully as they manage their time. They know when they do their best work. Some people are morning people, some are night owls. Successful people leverage their natural rhythms. They schedule their most important, challenging tasks during their peak energy hours. They don't fight their biology, they work with it. They're also mindful of their energy drains. They limit time with negative people. They create environments that support their work. They take care of their physical health because they know that everything else depends on it. They get enough sleep. They exercise regularly. They eat foods that fuel them rather than deplete them. Let me share something that might surprise you. Successful people take breaks, real breaks. They understand that the human mind isn't designed to focus intensely for hours on end without rest. So they work in cycles, periods of intense focus followed by short breaks. This isn't wasting time, it's recharging so they can be more effective during their working hours. Some use the Pomodoro technique, minus 25 minutes of focused work followed by a 5-minute break. Others work for 90 minutes and then take 15 minutes off. The specific timing isn't what matters. What matters is the rhythm of engagement and renewal. Now let's talk about something that many people overlook. Successful people invest time in learning. Every day, they read books, they listen to podcasts, they take courses, they seek out mentors. They're constantly expanding their knowledge and skills. I often say that formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. The most successful people I know are voracious learners. They're curious, they're hungry for knowledge. They see learning not as a core, but as an opportunity. And they don't just consume information passively. They apply what they learn. They experiment. They try new approaches. They integrate new knowledge into their lives and businesses. They're not just readers, they're doers. Here's another key insight. Successful people understand the power of routine. They don't reinvent their schedule every day. They create effective routines and stick to them until they become habits, automatic behaviors that don't require willpower or decision making. This is crucial because willpower is a limited resource. Every decision you make depletes it a little bit. By creating routines for the important things, when you wake up, when you exercise, when you work on your most important tasks, you free up mental energy for the decisions that really matter. Think about it. Steve Jobs wore the same style of clothing every day. Barack Obama limited himself to 2 suit colors. They weren't being boring. They were eliminating unnecessary decisions to preserve mental energy for the important ones. Now let's address a common obstacle to effective time use, procrastination. We all face it. Even the most successful people feel the pull of procrastination. but they've developed strategies to overcome it. One powerful approach is what I call the 5-minute rule. When you're procrastinating on a task, commit to working on it for just 5 minutes. That's it. Anyone can do anything for 5 minutes. Once you start, the hardest part is over, and you'll often find yourself continuing well beyond those initial 5 minutes. Another strategy is to break big tasks into smaller, more manageable pieces. Don't think about writing an entire book. Think about writing 1 page. Don't think about building an entire business. Think about taking the next small step. Success is not one giant leap. It's many small steps taken consistently over time. Let me tell you about the power of deadlines. Successful people don't just set goals. They set deadlines for those goals. They understand that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. If you give yourself a week to complete a 2-hour task, it will take a week. If you give yourself 2 hours, it will take 2 hours. By setting deadlines real, non-negotiable deadlines, they create urgency and focus. They also create accountability, either to themselves or to others. This accountability is a powerful motivator. Now, here's something that might surprise you. Successful people delegate. They don't try to do everything themselves. They understand the value of their time, and they're willing to pay others to do tasks that don't require their unique talents or attention. This might mean hiring a virtual assistant to handle email and scheduling. It might mean outsourcing household tasks like cleaning or lawn care. It might mean building a team at work and delegating responsibilities. The specific form doesn't matter. What matters is the recognition that your time is valuable and limited. I know what some of you are thinking, but Jim, I can't afford to hire help. I understand. But consider this, what is an hour of your time worth? If you can earn $50 an hour doing what you do best, and you can pay someone $15 an hour to do tasks that don't require your expertise, isn't that a good investment? You're essentially buying back your time to use it more effectively. Let's talk about something that many productivity experts overlook, the importance of reflection. Successful people take time to reflect on their days, their weeks, their months, their years. They assess what's working and what isn't. They celebrate their victories and learn from their failures. This might be a daily review at the end of each day, a weekly review every Sunday evening, a monthly review at the end of each month, and an annual review at the end of each year. The frequency and format can vary, but the practice of reflection is consistent. During these reviews, they ask themselves questions like, what went well? What didn't go well? What did I learn? What will I do differently going forward? This practice of reflection allows for continuous improvement in how they use their time. Let me share with you a concept that has transformed how I think about time, the difference between urgent and important. Urgent matters demand immediate attention, the ringing phone, the pinging email, the deadline that's looming. Important matters contribute to your long-term mission, values, and goals. The challenge is that urgent matters tend to drown out important ones. Successful people are disciplined about focusing on what's important, not just what's urgent. They make time for strategic thinking, for relationship building, for personal development activities that don't scream for attention, but that make all the difference in the long run. One practical way they do this is by time blocking their calendars. They don't just schedule meetings and appointments, they schedule time for their most important work, for exercise, for family, for reflection. They treat these commitments to themselves with the same respect they would treat commitments to others. Now, let's address something that's become increasingly challenging in our digital age, managing distractions. Successful people are intentional about minimizing distractions. They turn off notifications. They batch process email at specific times rather than responding to each message as it arrives. They create technology-free zones or hours. They understand that in an age of endless distractions, the ability to focus is a superpower. And they cultivate this superpower through their habits and their environment. Let me tell you about a practice that many successful people share. They start their day with their most important task, what some call eating the frog. They identify the one task that will move them closest to their most important goal. And they tackle it first before emails, before meetings, before the day's demands start pulling them in different directions. This ensures that even if the rest of the day gets derailed, they've made progress on what matters most. It's a simple practice, but it's transformative. Another key to how successful people use their 24 hours, they leverage the power of preparation. They know that time spent preparing often saves time in execution, so they prepare for important meetings. They prepare for difficult conversations. They prepare their environment for focused work. I remember a mentor of mine who would spend 30 minutes preparing for a 1-hour meeting. He'd review the agenda, anticipate questions, gather necessary information. As a result, his meetings were focused, efficient, and productive. That 30 minutes of preparation often saved hours of follow-up work. Let's talk about the role of patience in success. This might seem counterintuitive in a discussion about making the most of every hour, but it's essential. Successful people understand that meaningful achievements take time. They're willing to invest hours, days, weeks, months, even years in pursuit of worthy goals. They don't expect overnight success. They don't quit when progress seems slow. They trust the process. They know that small actions repeated consistently over time lead to remarkable results. This patience, this long-term perspective, shapes how they use their hours each day. I often compare this to farming. A farmer doesn't plant seeds one day and expect to harvest the next. He knows there's a season for planting, a season for tending, and a season for harvesting. Successful people understand this rhythm of achievement. Now, let me share a powerful truth. Successful people value their time enough to invest in tools and resources that help them use it more effectively. They buy the right technology, they invest in training, they purchase systems and frameworks rather than creating everything from scratch. Some people balk at spending money on these things, but successful people see it as an investment, not an expense. If a $200 course or a $1,000 piece of software helps you save 100 hours, isn't that worth it? If your time is worth just $20 an hour, you've already come out ahead. Let's address a misconception about successful people. Some imagine that they work constantly, that they hustle 24/7, that they never rest. This isn't true. The most successful people I know work intensely when they work, but they also rest intensely when they rest. They understand that rest isn't a reward for productivity. It's a prerequisite for sustained high performance. They get enough sleep. They take vacations. They have hobbies. They spend time with loved ones. They know that the quality of their work will suffer if they don't take care of their well-being. Let me tell you about a practice that has served me well over the years, the power of morning and evening rituals. These bookends of your day set the tone for everything in between. Successful people are intentional about how they start and end their days. A morning ritual might include exercise, meditation, journaling, reviewing goals, planning the day. An evening ritual might include reflecting on the day, expressing gratitude, reading, preparing for the next day. These rituals create structure and meaning. They ensure that you begin and end each day with purpose rather than reactivity. Now, let's talk about a fundamental truth about time management. It's really about life management. It's not just about squeezing more tasks into each hour. It's about aligning how you spend your hours with what truly matters to you. This requires clarity about your values and goals. Successful people are clear about what they want from life professionally, personally, financially, relationally, spiritually. This clarity serves as a filter for their decisions about how to use their time. Without this clarity, you might be efficient doing things right, but not effective doing the right things. As Peter Drucker said, there is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. So take the time to get clear on what matters most to you. What are your core values? What are your most important goals? What kind of life do you want to create? Let these answers guide your daily decisions about how to use your 24 hours. Let me share with you a practice that many successful people use. They track their time. For a period, maybe a week, maybe a month, they record how they spend each hour. This self-awareness is often eye-opening. You might discover that you're spending hours each day on social media, or that your meetings are taking twice as long as they should, or that your estimate of how much you work is wildly inaccurate. This kind of audit provides a baseline. It shows you where your time is actually going, not where you think it's going. And from this awareness, you can make intentional changes. Now, I want to address something important, the role of rest and recovery and productivity. Successful people understand that human beings aren't machines. We can't operate at peak performance continuously. We need periods of rest and recovery. This means taking breaks throughout the day. It means getting enough sleep, not 4 hours, not 5 hours, but whatever amount allows you to function at your best, typically 7 to 8 hours for most adults. It means taking weekends off, or at least parts of weekends. It means using vacation time to truly disconnect and recharge. This isn't indulgence, it's strategy. Just as athletes need recovery time after intense training to build strength, we need recovery time after intense work to maintain our cognitive and creative capacities. Let me tell you about a perspective shift that changed how I think about time. Instead of saying, I don't have time for that, try saying that's not a priority for me right now. This simple change of language reveals the truth. Time management is really about priority management. When you say you don't have time for exercise, for reading, for that passion project, what you're really saying is that those things aren't priorities for you right now. This honest language helps you confront your choices more directly. Now, I want to talk about something that many successful people do. They create systems, not just goals. Goals are important, they give you direction. But systems, the processes and habits that lead to those goals, are what determine your success. For example, don't just set a goal to write a book. Create a system where you write 500 words each morning. Don't just set a goal to build a successful business. Create systems for marketing, for sales, for operations, for customer service. These systems, once established, reduce the need for willpower and decision making. They allow for consistent progress with less mental friction. Let me share a powerful insight about productivity. It's not about doing more things. It's about doing more of the right things. Successful people are clear on their vital few, the 20% of activities that yield 80% of their results, as per the Pareto principle. They focus their best time and energy on these high-leverage activities. They're willing to be average or even below average in areas that don't significantly impact their most important goals. They don't try to excel at everything. They excel at what matters most. Now, here's a concept that has transformed how I think about time: the distinction between makers and managers. Makers, writers, programmers, designers, creators need large blocks of uninterrupted time to do their best work. Managers, by contrast, operate in short bursts, dealing with a variety of people and issues throughout the day. If you're a maker, you need to protect your maker time fiercely. This might mean blocking off several hours or even full days for deep work. It might mean saying no to meetings during your peak creative hours. It might mean creating signals to others that you're in do not disturb mode. Let's talk about a practice that many successful people share. They simplify, they eliminate unnecessary complexities from their lives and work. They streamline their processes, they clarify their communications, they declutter their physical and digital spaces. This simplification isn't just about aesthetics, it's about effectiveness. When you simplify, you reduce the cognitive load. You make decisions easier. You create space for what matters. As Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Now, I want to address a truth that's often overlooked. Successful people don't just manage their time, they manage their energy. They recognize that not all hours are created equal. An hour when you're focused, energized, and engaged is worth multiple hours when you're distracted, drained, or disengaged. So they structure their days to maximize their energy. They tackle their most demanding tasks when their energy is highest. They schedule meetings and collaborative work during their social energy peaks. They save routine, administrative tasks for lower energy periods. Let me share with you a perspective that changed how I think about productivity. It's not just about getting things done. It's about getting the right things done with excellence. Successful people aren't just efficient, they're effective. They don't just check boxes, they create quality. This means being selective about what you commit to. It means being willing to do fewer things so you can do them better. It means recognizing that in many areas of life and work, quality matters more than quantity. Now, I want to talk about a characteristic I've observed in highly successful people. They take full responsibility for their time. They don't blame others for interruptions, for distractions, for demands on their time. They recognize that they are the ultimate guardians of their hours. This mindset of responsibility is empowering. It shifts you from victim to creator. Instead of reacting to whatever comes your way, you proactively design your days according to your priorities. Let me share a concept that has helped me tremendously: the idea of time assets versus time debts. A time asset is something you do now that will save you time in the future. A time debt is something you do now that will cost you time in the future. Creating templates, building systems, developing skills, delegating effectively, these are time assets. They require an upfront investment but pay dividends of saved time going forward. Postponing difficult conversations, allowing inbox clutter to accumulate, failing to maintain your health, these are time debts. They might save time now, but they'll cost you more time later. Successful people invest in time assets and minimize time debts. They're willing to spend time now to save time later. This long-term perspective shapes their daily decisions. Now, I want to address something that affects all of us: the tension between structure and flexibility. Successful people find the right balance. They create enough structure to ensure progress on their most important goals, but they allow enough flexibility to respond to emergencies, opportunities, and the natural flow of life. This isn't about being rigid, it's about being intentional. It's about having a plan, but being willing to adjust that plan when necessary. It's about directing your days rather than letting your days direct you. Let me share a practice that has served many successful people well. They create boundaries between different areas of their lives. They have clear start and end times for their workday. They have designated spaces for different activities. They have signals to themselves and others about when they're in work mode versus family mode versus personal time. These boundaries help them be fully present in whatever they're doing. When they're working, they work. When they're with family, they're with family. When they're resting, they rest. This presence, this focus enhances both their productivity and their joy. Now, I want to talk about a quality that many successful people share. They're decisive. They don't agonize over minor decisions. They don't overthink. They gather necessary information, make a choice, and move forward. This decisiveness saves tremendous time and mental energy. It prevents the paralysis of analysis. It allows for momentum. And if they make a wrong decision, they adjust course and continue moving forward. Let me share a practice that many successful people use. They leverage the power of accountability. They share their goals and commitments with others. They work coaches or mentors. They join mastermind groups. They create systems where their progress or lack thereof is visible. This accountability creates healthy pressure to use time wisely. When you know someone else is counting on you, when you know you'll have to report on your progress, you're more likely to follow through on your intentions. Now, I want to address a challenge we all face, the gap between knowing and doing. Most people know what they should do to use their time effectively. The challenge isn't knowledge, it's application. It's bridging that gap between what we know and what we do. Successful people are relentless about implementation. They don't just read books on productivity, they apply the principles. They don't just attend seminars, they take action on what they learn. They are doers, not just learners. Let me share a perspective that has helped me tremendously, the concept of enough. In a world that always pushes for more and more productivity, more achievement, more possession, successful people define what enough means to them. They know when to say this is sufficient, whether it's about work, money, or accomplishments. This clarity about enough prevents the endless cycle of striving that can lead to burnout. It allows for satisfaction and celebration. It creates space for other dimensions of a rich, full life beyond just productivity and achievement. So, as we wrap up our time together, let me share some final thoughts on how successful people use their 24 hours. They value their time above almost everything else. They're clear about what matters most to them. They create systems and habits that align with their priorities. They focus on high leverage activities. They manage their energy as well as their hours. They take full responsibility for how they spend their days. But perhaps most importantly, they recognize that time management isn't about squeezing more and more activity into each day. It's about making space for what truly matters: meaningful work, loving relationships, personal growth, contribution to others, joy, rest, reflection. You see, at the end of our lives, we won't measure success by how many items we checked off our to-do lists. We'll measure it by whether we used our hours to create a life of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. That's the ultimate aim of mastering your 24 hours. So I encourage you to start today. Take control of your time. Align your hours with your highest values and goals. Create systems that serve you. Eliminate what doesn't matter so you can focus on what does. Guard your time as your most precious resource, because that's exactly what it is. Remember, you have all the time there is minus 24 hours each day, no more, no less. It's not about having more time, it's about making the most of the time you have. And that choice, that profound choice about how to use your hours, is yours alone to make. Thank you for your time today. I hope you'll use it wisely.